Hey y'all, it's your girl Sia, and I'm back with another video. First things first, good morning to everyone. It is 5:30 in the morning. I've been up since 4. Stayed up last night and did some bookkeeping for one of my clients, was able to charge them. I've got two more clients that I need to knock out bookkeeping for, but we're moving right along. Um, Let me tell you guys this. I had someone pose a question about basically why wouldn't I just quit? And I'm going to be honest with you guys. When you start to move up the ladder and you start to build things for yourself and you have a lot to lose, you're not willing to put yourself in financial predicaments that you shouldn't be in, right? So if I rage quit in this situation, the person that gets hurt is me, right? Um, and I say this because a lot of people think that, okay, if I don't like a position, right, I should just be able to quit. And I feel like when you're young and you don't have a lot writing, a lot of responsibility, it's easier to rage quit, right? It's easier to be like, you know what, fuck this. I quit and then go find a job, right? I'm in a position, I want to be clear, what I do, even though I have a skill set, I do not have the credentials, right? And I'm not saying that in my field because I do accounting and I do tax, right? I have the experience, I don't have the like the CPA title or whatever. And in that predicament, because I'm in the state of Colorado, I've been very adamant about, because of my experience with this company and other companies, I do not want to continue putting myself in a situation where I'm the only Black person. And that is actually very common in my industry. And I've said this time and time again. I don't want to be put in a position where there's a lack of diversity, because anytime there is a lack of diversity within an organization, I'm going to be experiencing this. Like I said, my experience is common amongst Black people who are the quote unquote token Black person at a company. So my experience is not personal to me as much as it is tons of Black women and men speaking up about the same exact thing, the same exact experiences within their organization. Okay. So this is something that Black people are going through and experiencing on a wider scale than just my isolated incident. It just so happens that while all of our situations are unique to us, it's the same common theme across the board. And so, me being with this company, whether they want me there or not, they're going to have to do it the right way, right? They're going to have to fire me. The reason why I say, and it's not me being like, oh, you're going to have to fire me to get rid of me, like, not to be a jerk, but realistically, I don't have any level of protection financially if I quit. You do not get unemployment if you voluntarily quit. If something was to happen, let's say, because we're out of tax season, right? So me going to work for Jackson Hewitt, that puts me back at like $18 an hour. Y'all, I'm not willing to settle and bring my pay down for the sake of moving on, right? So I definitely have to be strategic in what I do and how I do it. Um, the frustration comes in for me because it's not like if I was working at McDonald's, right? And then I'm able to go to Wendy's, right? Or Burger King, get the same job. I am with the positions that I am in, people hold bachelor degrees for these positions, right? Whether they can do the job is a whole nother conversation. But a lot of these companies are looking for someone with a bachelor's degree, and I've got one more year left. Do you understand? So I am not the primary candidate for another firm, right? Even though I can do the work, I'm not um their primary candidate. So I have to take that into account. I have to look at my situation and be wise about my situation. I'm not finna put my situation in a spot where I can't pay my bills, right? I'm not willing to financially sacrifice myself for the sake of a company that don't want me there. You should have never hired me. That's just the reality of it. If you didn't want me, I should have never been hired, right? And it's not, again, for me, I'm not willing to quit because I think that people don't understand, a lot of companies, when they want to get rid of you, they're going to do certain tactics to try to push you out. And a lot of that is done so that the liability doesn't fall back on the company. I'm not going to be bullied out of a position and put in a worser position, like, for this company. I'm not willing to do it. And I also want to reiterate, I know that, in terms of the paid vacation, you guys, that's not like, that's a 40-hour work week, bro. So understand that it wasn't like they're going to give me thousands and hundreds of thousands or even 50 grand a year's worth salary to go on vacation. This was, hey, paid leave that I had already earned, 40 hours a week, 40 hours for the work week. That's exactly what I make. It ain't like I'm making, you know what I mean? It ain't like there was any extra income coming on top of that. There wasn't a severance package. When I'm looking at the money that he was looking at giving me, it's 2,000 something dollars, right? If you look at and I'm trying to give y'all a ballpark, excuse me, so you guys, without revealing too much of my salary, but understand that the amount of pay that I would have received would have been just enough to pay my rent and maybe a little bit of bills. And then I would not be able to collect unemployment. So in the event that I couldn't line up a job, or let's say my business couldn't pick up fast enough, right? I could not collect unemployment on the back end. My goal is to get fired. That's the premises. That's how you it pays off to get fired than it is to quit. Quitting, again, when I didn't have a lot to lose, okay, yeah, I'd quit. I would have quit a long time ago. The old me would have quit a long time ago. That's what I mean by pride, is because I'm not reacting like the old me. I'm actually doing it the right way. Now, if I was willing to go, let's say, for example, if I was willing to say, you know what, I'm going to go work at a warehouse temporarily, or I'm going to go, drive for Uber or whatever until I can find a job, that's different. But I'm not willing to, what's the word? Lessen the quality of my life for the sake of some job that should have never hired me, knowing damn well they don't really appreciate me to begin with. That ain't on me. That's on the company. So we could look at it like, oh, well, she should just, she can quit and da-da-da. And, your boss is offering you to go on vacation. Why didn't you take it? Like, y'all, it ain't like I'm going like to Tahiti or Hawaii. I would have been at home with my average week's pay that I had already earned anyway. But understand that I got bills, as an adult should. And so if I'm looking at it, you're only willing to pay me a month's worth of salary. Well, there's my rent, there's my light bills, there's my car note, there's my insurance on my car, right? That literally is all my bills for 1 month. That's what he was willing to pay. All my bills for 1 month. Well, maybe a little less because my business pays for the rest of it. Do you understand? So this wasn't like a deal. It wasn't like a bargain. It was like, really? You're insulting my intelligence right now. You think that I'm willing to walk away. And like I said, now, if he was to come to me with a severance package and being like, here you go, here's a few, quite a few $1,000s for you to go away, that's different. But for you to offer me what I've already earned, essentially, that ain't working for me, bro. That ain't, y'all understand, I get paid twice a month. So if he would have let me go, I would have probably had one extra paycheck. Okay. If I don't have a job, what is that paying for? Realistically, what is that paying for? Nothing. Not something that's gonna, basically, if I would quit, because I've been here before, and if I quit, now I'm stressing about rent. I'm stressing about how I'm gonna feed my kid. How am I gonna make sure I got gas in my, I don't like that's not a level of stress that allows me to be able to produce anything. When I'm worried about the roof over my head, I don't function properly. I start freaking out, right? Because it's the Maslow's, what is it, survive the hierarchy or whatever, where people need a roof over their head first and foremost. So what happens when people lose their jobs, right? They freak out because they got bills to pay. That the bills don't stop. I'm not willing to go backwards and be in a situation where I'm going through an eviction now. I'm not, I just worked my way out of that shit. I'm not going backwards. The fuck? Not by the hands of somebody else. I'm not fucking doing that. Sorry. So I understand that, like I said, the average person and the old me would have been like, you know what, fuck it, I'm out of here. The moment we would have had this conversation, I would have been like, you know what, that's fine. Give me my check or whatever. But my fear is, if I cannot find a new position, I'm not going to Jackson Hewitt. Sorry, you're not. Like I said, where I'm paid a lot more than the average tax preparer. And that is because of what I do. It has nothing about where I work. Well, yes, it does. It has everything to do with where I work. So if it takes me a month, even when I went through an interview, I just recently went through an interview process, right? That process took about a month, 2 months to actually get to the interview. The fuck? Like, I understand what people are saying, but realistically, I got to move in a manner that protects myself, right? I've got a 401k, right? I want to be clear, right? If I leave earlier than a certain time, I don't get that money. If I was to say okay to the vacation, essentially that could have been twisted into me saying, okay, I quit, and I may not have gotten unemployment, right? So it's not, it has to be concrete. When you're dealing with HR, when you're dealing with protections in terms of legality, right? You want to be fired. I need, if I'm dealing with a situation that I feel like, if I, well, one, he can't fire me because there's no real grounds to fire me, right? So letting me go, you not wanting me there, is irrelevant. This is what people don't understand when they work a job. None of that shit matters. If we were to take it to court, right? Not saying that it's going there, but again, I have to prepare myself for anything that can come down the pipeline. If the situation was going to go to court, and I turned around and said, hey, look, well, I quit. I voluntarily said this isn't working for me. There's no such thing as any sort of protections for somebody who voluntarily quits. What I'm going through, there are legal ramifications for what I'm dealing with, right? This is why the conversation was, hey, I'm gonna let you go on vacation, right? I was gonna give you a week and a half vacation. Basically, what he was going to do is extend the vacation, right? And then maybe when I came back to work, or at least tried to come back to work, because I wouldn't have known that this is what was happening, right? So if that conversation, let's say it went down the way that he was trying to make it go down, I would have thought that I was on vacation. I would have went back to work realizing that maybe my work had been reassigned, right? Certain things that, again, they weren't made clear because it's very passive aggressive. That ain't my responsibility to have to go through none of that shit. So in a month, I go back, I'm ready to go back to work. My vacation's up, and you like, what, how was that supposed to play out? Do you understand me? I've got to go through the less, I've got to figure out a solution. That's definite. That's not even like a question, right? And that solution I am actively working on, but I cannot snap my fingers and make it happen any faster. In the last 4 weeks, I've gained 4 clients, right? And so some are tax, some are bookkeeping, right? The bookkeeping clients are what pays me good money. The tax, it's a one-time kind of deal. It's good money, but it's one-time, deal. I am doing my best for what I can do, being that I'm giving someone 40 hours a week, right? Maybe even more because I'm a salaried employee. And building my business on the side. So I'm not a freaking superhuman, right? I'm not like, I'm doing the best I can with what I have. Now, the average person may say, well, you can go get a job anywhere. Well, go try telling that to the white folks I just applied to. Like, it's not like I haven't been actively looking for jobs. But I can either say, okay, again, because my focus is tax, not bookkeeping. If my focus is tax, and again, I'm not willing to work for H&R Block or Jackson Hewitt. No, nothing against them. It's just that doesn't pay my bills. Do you understand? I don't know why tax preparers there don't make enough money, but they don't. It just is what it is. That's a place I could go get a job, right? Maybe not now, but for tax season, I could have a job. Easy. But in this field, like I said, you're dealing with firms, accounting firms, right? And I don't know. Again, I'm sure that if I keep applying, right, there's one person that is going to be like, I'll hire you. But I don't want to have to go through the situation again, right? I don't, it's not fair to me to have to keep putting myself in situations where I'm going to keep experiencing the same thing over and over and over again. So at this point, in my mind, right, I know that I'm making the right move. I don't like it. Again, I've seen people where, let's say, for example, I could rage quit, right? Because there are people, my mentor has kind of been mentioning like certain things. And the vacation, he was like, listen, if they're going to offer you vacation, that's cool. But you need to be able to get unemployment. If anything was to go down, I got to protect myself. Unemployment is protection. That's unemployment for what, 6 months? And again, sending me on vacation is not firing me. Do you understand? So that's where you guys, it's like, I need it clear, cut, and dry that you're firing me so that when I go and apply for unemployment, there's no question about what happened. The whole I'm letting you go on vacation and extended vacation, that area is pretty gray. It's pretty gray because, again, you could say there's so much room for things to be misconstrued during that vacation. If my access to the company is cut off, ain't no telling what they'd conjure up or what would be coming out in that unemployment hearing. So I need something a little bit more concrete. If you're going to let me go, you need to be like, yo, we're letting you go. Not you're sending me on a vacation. I'm sorry. Because it just, I've been through too much to know how games are played in this, right? And when you're dealing with legal ramifications, the company has a business attorney, right? So they're doing what is in best interest of the business and moving in a manner that protects themselves from any sort of liability or blowback from an unjust termination. There's no reason to fire me. That's why I wasn't fired. Do you understand? And so, granted, they don't want me there, but they're going to have to figure out a way. Again, I need to be fired. Like, that's in my mind. I keep telling you guys this. I need to be fired. Now, I can do some things that may result in an immediate firing, but I'm not trying to put myself in a position that, has ramifications because of what I did to get fired. Do you understand? So understanding that sometimes you may not like a situation, but you have to move accordingly in that situation. Now, with that being said, the owner did provide solutions, right? And that's where I think that the conversation was a bit missed because I was a bit emotional yesterday, right? But the owner did, and that's what my dad helped me to understand, was that there were solutions. They just don't feel like solutions because in your mind, you're like, well, I've been dealing with all this disrespect. And now you're telling me that that was an accident because you made an assumption that you had no business making. So then you retaliated against me. So all week long, I've been dealing with a level of retaliation that I should have never had to experience in the first place. So mentally, that does something for you. When somebody ignores you, right, intentionally, and I want to be clear, I can handle that. Don't get it twisted. That's why I never said anything about it. When he didn't say, when the owner literally, when I watched him walk past me as if I hadn't even been there, right? And I'm the one that's bringing in the majority. I'm the beginning of your money. And you walked right past me and didn't say good morning to me. It was obvious that that's what he was doing. But it also let me know, like, I can handle that shit. I'm not like high school. I've experienced shit like this. So I never mention it. That's why I don't talk about the shit, because you're not going to know that your actions bother me. I'm never going to let them know that. So again, it's not a situation for me. For me, I felt like there should be more for the emotional piece aspect of things that I experienced, the psychological aspect of things that I experienced. Like that shit you can't take back. You can apologize for your actions, you can acknowledge your actions, but the damage was already done. And so you have to understand that my emotion came from the affirmation that I was actually correct, because the owner stated I was correct. Like, so for me, it's like, well, damn, okay, so I was right. But what about my feelings? Like, what about how I've been treated? Like, what about all the shit that I've had to take because you fucked up? You made a poor choice, right? So I think that's where the emotion was coming from. It's not that, oh, they're treating me bad. When no, they've been treating me like shit. No offense, since I started. And part of that has to do with the fact that I'm a Black woman. Actually, a lot of that has to do with that. And that's okay. I mean, it ain't okay to treat me crazy, but if that's how they treat people, that's how they treat people. My frustration came in. It wasn't even frustration. I don't know if it was relief or what, but it was like, damn, I've been thinking that this is how you're treating me this entire time. And then you finally come out, like, we have an honest discussion. And it finally comes out, yeah, I misconstrued some things. Yeah, I made, I understood some things. Yeah, that does anything to anybody's psyche, because every day I go to work and I'm questioning myself. I'm questioning the conversations that are being had, right? I'm analyzing these things. I'm spending time and energy on these things because they're bringing it to my attention, not because it's like what I want to focus on. I'm there to work. That is my mentality. Unfortunately, though, there are people that don't necessarily want to see you there. So understandably, when I first started this company, one of the clients, he's a Arabian guy, I think, or maybe from India. I don't know. Maybe more from India. But he's the one who told me, he said, listen, you're only going to be able to go so far. This is within 3 months of working with this company. You're only going to be able to go so far. And this is a man that supports me. He's like, listen, I want to see you win. As a Black person, I want to see you win. I know how hard it is in this game. I know what the lack of diversity does. I've experienced racism. I know what this is. So that's 3 months into working for the company, right? 3 months. So this ain't, like I said, the warning signs were always there, but I didn't have Initially, when I first started, it was like, you know what? I want to grow. I'm thinking I can grow with the company. I'm being led on. I'm given all of these dreams and aspirations of what I can do with the company. So I bought into the company message. Do you understand? I bought into the sales pitch that I was given. And so obviously, it's taken me up until this point to be like, you know what? Maybe I'm making the wrong, like maybe this ain't for me. Excuse me. Um, but now that I'm recognizing that I need a new situation, right? And that's just more for my mental health. It ain't like real talk. If this was a performance issue and about like the quality of my work or something, I'd have been fired. Like there would have been no hesitation about firing me at all. This wouldn't have been a discussion, right? Where we're going back and forth about what's going on or what is perceived to be going on, stuff like that. It would have been, hey, look, can I call you in? Here's your last paycheck. Have a great day. But because this is a perception-based conversation, meaning that you may perceive me as a certain way, that doesn't make me that way. That's not a reason for me to now have to stress about where I'm laying my head at every day. That's not fair to me. And so anybody who can suggest that and recommend that, you clearly don't understand what I'm going through. You don't. Now what I will say is it did not, in my opinion, it didn't feel resolved. Like I felt like again, when you're dealing with situations where people are ignoring you because your door's shut to your office, um that's crazy to me. And oh well, I just assumed you wanted to be left alone. Well, if that's the case, I would have worked from home, right? So this is a grown ass man. This man is 50, 60 years old. And you mean to tell me he shouldn't have been? It's always on me that I got to be the bigger person. He should have been the bigger person and come in and be like, good morning anyway. I get shoulda, coulda, woulda. But in my mind, that does not take away the pain, the psychological shit that I had to go through when I'm being ignored and don't know why really I'm being ignored. All I'm doing is speculating, right? And I'm going through all these, okay, I'm noticing I'm not having this conversation. These meetings are not happening. This is not happening, right? And I'm noticing all of these things. Nothing has been said to me because now you think that you should leave me alone. So now I'm having issues with communication in terms of my work because now you're not communicating with me the things that need to be communicated. You see what I'm saying? All of these things took an effect. And when the owner said, man, I can imagine how me thinking that, me assuming that had an effect on your mental state. And the domino effect it had. That's an owner taking accountability for his fuck up. That's what people like. That's what happened. So he's saying, look, I fucked up because I handled this wrong. And because I handled this wrong, this is why you're experiencing X, Y, Z, and D. And so if there was an attitude, let's say, for example, if that's the reason why I was in that office, if there was an attitude, he's recognizing that could be possibly why there was an attitude. Do you understand that? So the owner took full accountability for his fuck up. Don't get it twisted. It's not like these people, they say they don't want me there, but I make them money. Do you understand? So it's not as cut and dry as I think people want it to be, right? It's not. Not on top of that, the man told me, anytime someone is giving you a problem, right? Or you feel like you're getting a level of pushback that you shouldn't be receiving because you're doing your job, come and tell me. Come and tell us, do a report, right? So essentially, the situation was resolved, I guess, again, from a management standpoint. They're not a fucking therapist. So the stuff that I was experiencing where I'm crying and I'm in my feelings, that's because of the ramifications of being treated like shit, only for you to realize that folks are realizing they did you dirty. That shit, it wasn't like I guess I was supposed to feel like, damn, you heard me, right? Like I said, and I did feel heard in that conversation. Don't get it twisted. I appreciate them listening. I appreciate the feedback back and forth, right? And being able to have that difficult conversation, right? And express what I've gone through and what I've experienced, right? At the same token, though, it doesn't take away the experience. It's never going to take away what I just went through, what I experienced, right? So, granted, from what my dad said, and I understand, because what my dad said is the reason why, because at first I was like, well, why do I need to tell on them when they're doing something? Like, because that's not even in my MO. What my dad said is the reason they want me to tell is so that they can start correcting the issues that I'm dealing with that are leading to a bad experience at work. So if they really didn't want me there, I'm gonna keep it a buck. They probably really don't in terms of like personality. Like if I'm talking to my friend or my wife at home, I could be like, you know what, I don't really like CC, whatever, da da da. Like that's cool. But realistically, they don't have a legitimate reason to have even put me through what they put me through today. And so or yesterday. So the easiest way to say, like I said, it's easier to say, you know what, I'll quit than it is to say, you know what, I still got bills to pay, right? And I gotta move strategically. I've gotta move so that I'm not losing everything that I worked for, right? And we all know that that's very possible after you lose a job, right? Now, granted, I have my business. I understand the average person would be like, well, focus on your business and just build your business. Clients, you're looking at, for me to do what I want to do, I need 13 clients at minimum. And I need 13 bookkeeping clients, not tax clients. Like tax clients are cool. If I'm doing individual returns like how they do at H&R Block, then I'd be making bank. The problem though is that is not my expertise. That, I mean, I can do a 1040 all day. I can do individual turns all day long. Like that's easy for me. That's not where my my expertise in this is small business. You understand? So granted, I'm not H&R Block. I charge people a lot more than what H&R Block charges, right? Even for a personal return, people are looking at anywhere from 250 to 500 at minimum. Do you understand? So I'm not, and that's on a low end. I'm not really H&R Block ballpark range in terms of returns. If I'm doing a business return, I'm charging 750 and up, right? A lot of my clients make 200K plus a year. You get what I'm saying? So mentally, y'all, I'm not like, I know what I'm doing in terms of my career, like in terms of why I'm not like, oh, let me go just do a whole bunch of 1040s and da da da. Like, no shade, but the quality comes from the quality customer. I would much rather have less of a headache doing the return than dealing with folks that are ghetto and just crazy. And not saying everybody at H&R Block is ghetto and crazy, but they, trust me, H&R Blocks around the world have their issues during tax season to the point of police. I don't have time for that. I'm not dealing with that level of customer. I just don't. There's a reason why I left H&R Block. So I don't know. Like I said, even, I was even considering, as I was telling my daughter, maybe I do need to start doing individual returns. Maybe that's what's going to help me to get financially to the next level to where I don't need to deal with shit like this. Because anybody Black, I'm going to be honest, most of the Black people in my field own their own business. They're doing their own thing in their own business. They won't work for a firm like how I'm doing. So maybe that's an option that I need to look into, right? But that's not my focus as a tax preparer and small business owner. Like that's not, I'm more geared for small businesses, right? I want the repeated income. I want to be able to see your business from beginning to end, meaning that if I've got to set up your entity structure, that's what I do, right? From beginning to end, set up your books, right? Get you ready for tax, all of these things. That's where my money, the bulk of the good money, that's where it comes from. That's repetitive money. So understand, you guys, like, rage quitting again is fine when you don't have other responsibilities. If was at my roommate's where I was paying $500 a month, trust me, I would have quit a long time ago. I would have been quit this job. I'd have been quit because I could financially afford to quit. Now my rent is $1,500. I can't afford to quit, bro. And it really is like, I'm looking at, well, what if, right? And I get, when you're manifesting, you don't want to really look at what if, but you can allow your mindset to be so positive that you don't count in the negative either. So it's not meant for me to quit. I feel like when I rage quit, let me be clear. I feel like that is God. Like, it's a spiritual thing. Like, God is like, nope, you can't do this no more. And finally the job ends whether I like it or not, right? And usually in those situations, I end up coming out on top on the back end. But with me having so much to lose right now, I'm not willing to trust what comes out on that back end. And I do feel like this, if God really wants me, like, let's say the timing says, I don't want you here, right? And God is like, you know what, you're not supposed to be here. Then something's going to happen that makes me not really need to be there. Like, God is not going to keep me in a situation that is not where I'm supposed to be. It just is what it is. Like, I'm not experiencing this situation. I really believe this. I'm not experiencing this situation because, again, the dialogue that me and the owner had was, again, I'm surprised, but it was very, like I said, it was flowing. I said what I needed to say. He said what he needed to say. It was very positive. Like, that's the first time I've really ever had that kind of conversation with that level of conversation, if that makes sense. So this is the first time that I've been able to communicate and articulate how I feel and what I've been experiencing, and do it in a manner where I'm heard, right? And do it in a manner where they're like, okay, well, then if that's the case, here are what we need to do, right? Because if you're trying to do your job and they're not freaking listening, then that's a problem, right? Where I had the tax manager apologize to me because he was like, damn, maybe I'm not doing my job right. Obviously not. Not if you're talking about firing the money. Like, of course not. It got to a point where even the owner asked the tax manager, can you do your job? Like, can you do this job? So understanding that a lot of that was it was misinterpreted. It was miscommunicated because they only had one side of the story. They didn't really hear mine because I'm not the person that goes and tells on people. I just don't. You don't want to give me an answer? Fine. Right? And now I know that I have the support of the people who were technically supposed to be supporting me this whole time. But like I said, friendships tend to cloud management judgments, right? Um, and so knowing that I have support in that way, I'm willing to try what they're telling me to do. Does that make sense? It's not like they're ignoring me. It's not like they minimize what I've said. I didn't feel like I was gaslighted in that conversation. I feel like they genuinely heard me. So I want to be clear. I want to give this, it's not about where I want to be, right? Because if I could make a magic wand, I would have my own business and I would be doing my business full time. It's about moving in a manner that's beneficial to me. Fuck everybody else, right? I am being selfish because at the end of the day, I've got a kid that depends on me, and I don't need to keep reiterating that I've got responsibility, right? I built up my house. I'm not willing to tear it down because I don't like a situation for the moment, right? Will my situation in this position ever change? No. When this man told me, because I told him, I said, part of my frustration with the company is that I don't really know where I'm going with this company. When that man told me, well, I don't really know, like, I don't know what you want to do, that tells me you're not as invested in my future as you are others. And that's okay. Right. But these conversations needed to be had so everybody knows where everybody stands. I have more power in this situation than what I think the average person would think that they have. As an employee, when you're moving in manners that are respectable, again, I've not been disrespectful. Like, I've not actually been at a point where you can legally like fire me. That's why it was, oh, I was just going to let you go on vacation. And I'm glad he told me that, because it tells me just how slick people are. The whole I'm ignoring you thing, that was an attempt to try to push me out again. But that only happened over the course of a week because my door was shut. The fuck? That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. So if you don't want me there, and this is how I feel, if they don't want me there, that's okay. But they're going to have to do it the right way, in a manner you're going to have to get rid of me so that I can do what I need to do to protect myself. And the biggest thing that I'm looking at is, in the event that I can't find a job, not saying that I can't, I would either have to settle for something outside of the industry that I'm in, which I don't necessarily want to do. I would have to be okay with going into another environment that's set up very similar to this environment, where I'm the only Black person. That has become my issue. The lack of diversity is really an issue. And as a Black person, I'm just not willing to have this experience again. So I'm not rage quitting. It is what it is. People cannot understand it. You cannot understand my decisions. I think responsible people do, because again, leaving a job, I just was signed up to a summit recently where Black women, doctors from all around the country, are going to be talking about this type of situation, right? Being in a toxic work environment, and how do you like navigate that situation? What are some solutions to that situation? And then how do you plan on, like, you've got to make a plan and a strategy to get out of that situation, right? So I'm not like, again, this is not me wanting to stay there. This is me moving in a manner that benefits me, my child, my family, everything that I've got building. In the meantime, I need to be doing what I need to do, which is, one, looking for a new position somewhere, right? So obviously my resumes are already done. I've already got recruiters. I've been having recruiters contact me. Again, I know what type of scene I'm dealing with now. So I know whether or not I'm gonna, like I said, I don't want to be in a company where I'm the only Black person. Like, that experience, this experience is not what I will tolerate again. So if I've got to, it's the same thing with my roommate. My old roommate, I didn't like living with him a lot of the time. Like, he's good people, but I didn't like, he's got a different way of living than me. But I tolerated it so that I can ensure that I don't have to do the roommate situation ever again. It's the same thing here. It's not that I'm learning from my experience, right? I was able to see that I had grown. Like, I didn't really plan on that conversation. I didn't know it was going to happen. So to see how I handled that, I'm very impressed with myself. And I'm proud of myself, because again, the old me would have been like, you know what, fuck this, I'm out. The moment he would have said, well, it's your choice, right? Oh, I would have made the choice all day long. That's why I was shocked. I think, again, that's part of where the emotions come from, because I did not handle it how I'm used to handling it. But I also didn't beg and plead and all that jazz. Like when he asked me if it was my choice, I said, well, I'm here, aren't I? Like I showed up to work thinking I was going to work like everybody else. So to me, that wasn't really a question. It was, I'm showing you better than I can tell you. I'm here. If I didn't want to be here, I wouldn't have showed up. I didn't say that, but that's basically what I implied. So understand that there are ways to move in this world, right? In certain jobs, you can't just bomb out of. This is not, it's a firm, you guys. It's not like some warehouse, bro, where you could just get up and be like, fuck this, I'm going to the next. This is my reputation. These people I will see again because they're well known in the industry. This is not like, these aren't ties that I can just burn without repercussion. And if it was something that I could do, like I can pray on it, right? If God wants me to leave, he'll remove me from that situation. So maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to make a prayer and say, hey, look, if this job ain't working for me, help me to get out of it. But I just know God. And that if that's the case, then I might rage quit, right? So maybe I'll have that conversation with God. But I want to trust my dad. And when I say the good black, right? He is the good black, the guy that as a black man, he has had the same experiences that I'm going through right now. The only difference is my dad was trained on how to deal with it. My generation don't put up with shit like this. We're not really good at putting up with shit like this, right? We never have been. That's what our generation is known for. Like my generation really has changed the workforce in the way that it has. Like even yesterday, I was like, listen, I'm about to break down. I need to be able to leave, have my half day. I still get paid. It ain't like I'm losing money, right? The company might, but I'm not, right? So, and my boss was like, all right, go home. Like go do what you need to do. That's a mental health day for me. Do you understand? So I'm not wanting to be in this situation longer than I have to, but I also know that I got to move accordingly. Rage quitting does not benefit you in the way that many people think it would. Now, if I'm working at a job that, it don't pay much and I can easily find something in equivalent to that, cool. But if I was to rage quit and then let's say something happens and I can't afford to pay my rent for the following month, whose fault? Like, you know what I mean? It's on me. It falls back on me. I'm the one dealing with the pieces on that. So I gotta weigh out my situation. Like I said, I'm prepared to go in today doing what my father said to do, because that's not like when I'm looking up HR stuff and when I was looking up, how do you handle these types of situations? What my dad is saying is actually what everybody else is saying, to protect yourself. So um the only way I'm gonna leave is if I leave voluntarily or I'm fired. Ain't no question. I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, you going on vacation. Because I'm gonna be like, no, I'm good. I am going on vacation, but that was already scheduled. It was already planned, right? And I also want to be clear. Now, all of a sudden, that conversation that happened yesterday, it put me back in quote unquote good graces, I guess. So now I was briefed on everything that I didn't know about for the last week, 2 weeks, right? Um, and really, this has been going on since I called out certain situations that I had every right to call out. So I know that it's more than just me shutting my door, right? But that's all they want to touch on. So that's all we gonna touch on. We ain't gonna get into, you know, other situations that I feel like are just not appropriate for the workplace, right? So we're not gonna get into that. Because I can't prove it and it ain't got shit to do with me type shit, right? But this owner knew what he was doing. The only difference is it didn't work with me, right? I read him. We've had so many people leave since I started for similar reasons, right? In terms of how I felt, not how he felt, how I felt. In the last year and a half. There's a lot of people that are hired and fired. Like they don't get fired, they quit. Excuse me. So this is me knowing, okay, this is how you're moving. This is me understanding that I'm reading the scenario very correct, right? I'm reading the owner very well, right? And knowing that now that I know what transpired and everything that happened, and I had time to sleep on it and think about it and process it, I'm gonna do what my dad told me to do. I trust my dad in this scenario. I trust, that he's right. And I agree with at least giving it a shot, because that is a solution. The solutions that were presented to me were solutions. I just didn't know how to emotionally deal with what came with that, right? So, and I don't know, like, to be honest with you, because of who my boss is, I'm not the only person he's done this to before. And I don't know if this was just a conversation as much as he was really prepared to let me go type shit. Like, he says it, but I don't know. So I'm not making excuses for anyone. I'm not making excuses for myself, right? I recognize game. I'm not dumb. Obviously, I felt all this before the conversation had. I see it clear as day. But I'm also not dumb enough to say, you know what, I'm going to stop my bag because this motherfucker wants me out. If he wants me out, he's going to have to fire me, bro. Not, or I'm going to have to quit. But I'm going to have to quit with a job that pays the same amount, if not more. So that's where I'm at with everything. I just wanted to explain that with y'all. I'm going to get ready to go into work. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And hopefully I have a better live that I can do for y'all next time. But with that being said, I'm out. Peace.